Particular lecture I'm going to talk about profit maximization. So be with me throughout the lecture and try to understand everything, and at the end of the class, if you don't understand anything, you can just post it in the comment box. Okay, so let me continue with it. So what we understand by profit is simply it's the difference between revenue and the cost. So I can simply write revenue as price times quantity, and cost can be written as a function of the output. So the optimizing condition of the profit maximizing is, so I take the first order derivation. So derivation of profit with respect to quantity, it gives me marginal revenue minus derivation of cost with respect to quantity, it's marginal cost, equals to 0. So marginal cost is simply derivation of total profit with respect to total revenue with respect to quantity. Okay, what exactly is marginal revenue? It is the additional unit of revenue that I am getting from selling one more unit of output. Alright, and marginal cost is additional unit of cost incurred by producing one more unit of output. So by first order condition I get this, and optimum condition will lead me to this result, MR equal to MC. And if I take out the second order derivation for profit maximization from condition of profit maximization, here we'll put maxima condition, which says that in order to maximize a function, the second order derivation of this function must be less than 0, which means that slope of MR must be less than slope of marginal cost. So this must be the case which must be satisfied in order to get a maximum condition satisfied. So remember this thing, the two condition: first MR equal to MC, second condition that at optimum MR slope must be less than the slope of marginal cost. Now graphically we'll check how it's actually happening. So let's draw the graph here for total cost and total revenue. So here if I have output, here I have revenue and cost plotted. So let's say revenue is simply price into cost quantity, and with respect to output it's a linear function. So my revenue is simply a straight linear line, and if I talk about the cost function, so initially it's rising at a diminishing rate and later on it increases at a increasing rate. That's how my cost function is. Now we'll understand where is it that the cost is actually, the difference between revenue and cost is maximized, which means the profit is maximized. Now let's take different points and check where the at what output will my profit be maximized. Here we see there is a negative profit, cost is exceeding the revenue, and hence it's a negative profit. And at this point and this point, what we can say is revenue equals cost, that means profit is 0. So only the region where we have revenue curve above cost function, we have positive profit here, and wherever the difference between total cost and total revenue is maximum, will we have a case where profit is maximum. So this is the point at which MR equals to MC equality also holds true. And in addition to it, what was the second condition? That slope of MR must be less than slope of marginal cost. Now in this graph itself we can see that slope of total cost is rising faster than the slope of revenue. So it states that ultimately when we compute here at the point of optimality, it will be the case that the second order condition of profit maximization will actually hold true here. Alright, next I will move on to explain marginal revenue in little bit of detail, and we'll understand the relation between MR and the elasticity of demand. So marginal revenue, what we understand, is simply derivation of total revenue with respect to quantity. Now if I split this total revenue, I can write total revenue as price into quantity, and this is an inverse demand function, so I can rewrite it as PQ times Q. Okay, now differentiating it, what do we get? So let me take PQ as it is, dQ by dQ is 1, plus I have Q taken outside, dP by dQ. So this becomes my equation of marginal revenue. I hope this equation of marginal revenue is clear. Now we'll understand how marginal revenue is related to the elasticity. Let's take P common. So if I'm taking P common, then I have 1 here, but if I'm taking P common from this, so I have to put P in the denominator, so it becomes dP by dQ. And if I further solve it, this becomes 1 plus, what is this value? P by Q dq by dp. This entire term is inverse of elasticity of demand. Okay, and we know that elasticity value in a usual downward sloping demand curve, it's a downward sloping curve, so keep that in mind. So what we arrive at, the equation of MR is equal to price times 1 plus 1 by elasticity of demand. Alright, now moving on, let's just understand the relationship between elasticity and the MR. So suppose first case, if I take elasticity is infinity. So if elasticity is infinity, then what is the value of my MR? So if it is infinity, means we have in PQ space, demand curve is completely elastic, and therefore the elasticity is infinite in nature. Here its elasticity is infinity, right? So if I put a value of minus infinity here, MR will go, it will approach the price. MR is exactly equal to price, and that's what is the case in case of perfect competition. You must have studied perfect competition situation in which MR is equals to the price. So this is how we are actually deriving the same result that you would have studied earlier. So now I'll just explain when elasticity suppose is less than minus 1. So which means that it's highly elastic, or I can say elasticity is greater than 1, or if I say it's, since it's a negative value, if I exactly compute a negative value of elasticity and I say if it is less than minus 1, it means it's highly elastic. Demand is highly elastic in nature. In that case, what will be the value of my MR? Just think about it. So if I put a minus 2 here, for example, then MR is going to be a positive number. So remember this thing, if we are on a demand curve which is highly elastic in nature, in that case MR will be a positive number. Now third case, if I take, if we have inelastic situation in which elasticity is greater than minus 1. So if it is greater than minus 1 and less than 1, in that case we can say it's inelastic, right? Okay, so if this is the case, let me put a value of elasticity. Say if it is less than 1 but greater than 0 and it's inelastic in nature, let me put a value of half here. Okay, and if I put a minus value to it, because elasticity value actually is going to be a negative number, so putting here minus half, in that sense MR will be negative. So in a portion where demand is inelastic in nature, remember this thing, MR will be negative. And if exactly we have elasticity equals to minus 1, if this value is minus 1, means we have unit elasticity. So if we have unit elastic case, in that case it's minus 1 and MR will be equal to 0. This term goes to 0. So I hope this relationship between MR and elasticity is pretty much clear. So again, important concept here. Next I'll talk about price cost markup. So what is price marginal cost markup? Let's understand. So in equilibrium, when we say that first condition of optimality we get is MR equal to MC, and secondly, when we get MR equal to MC as a equilibrium, after this when we compute MR value, it comes out to be price times 1 plus 1 by elasticity. Alright, so in equilibrium I can just replace MR by MC and I can write it like this: MC equals to price 1 plus 1 by elasticity. So that's how price and marginal cost are related. and we can see if I rearrange this equation further and compute P upon MC, this equation, this becomes EQP upon elasticity plus 1, this value. Okay, so this is how price markup can be stated. Now if I put a value of elasticity, suppose elasticity value, put a value to elasticity, say it's -2. So it's -2 in the numerator, and denominator we have -2 plus 1. So this becomes 2, which means that price equals to 2 times marginal cost. So if we have elasticity equals to -2 value, then I can compute that price is exactly 2 times the marginal cost. So this is exactly the markup this monopolist has actually charged from the consumers, and they've been able to charge price exactly twice the level of marginal cost. Okay, so next I'll just explain constant elasticity case. Alright, so constant yes. So in this constant elasticity case, we assume elasticity to be a constant number, and the function form of is given as Q equals to A times PB. This is my demand function given to us. Now, where I take B as the elasticity of demand, given this, we'll compute the value of MR. Now we know how to compute MR. So first compute total revenue. This is my output, so I can compute total revenue as price into quantity. Just multiply it with quantity, we get A times P power B plus 1. Okay, this becomes my total revenue. Now you compute MR. MR, how do we differentiate total revenue by quantity? What do we get? Okay, just one little correction here. For total revenue, we want to compute it in terms of quantity. So instead of P, I can replace the value of P in terms of quantity here. So if you replace the value of P in terms of quantity, this becomes A into P value. If I put it becomes Q by A times 1 by B. This is my value of P whole power B plus 1. Okay, so just take this value of total revenue we have computed, and after this you compute MR. So now you differentiate total revenue with respect to quantity, and we get MR equals to 1 plus B upon B times P. This is the value of MR. So we can see that MR is proportional to the price. Now given different value of my elasticity, say B is a some given number, say if B equals to -2, then we will get to know by what proportion is MR proportional to the price. If B is -2, this value becomes -1 by 2, so MR becomes equal to 1 by 2 times price. So MR is exactly half of the demand. The curvature of MR is going to be exactly half the curvature of the demand function. That's how we can understand this particular case. So I hope this is clear. Next I will discuss short run supply curve for a price taking firm. Short run supply curve for price taking firm. So how do we understand short run supply curve? You must have studied this part although. So let's plot quantity here and the price here, and we have short run average cost, U-shaped short run average cost curve. We have short run average variable cost curve, and we have short run marginal cost curve. Okay, given these curve You must be familiar with these curves. Shortened marginal cost curve passes through the minimum point of shortened average cost curve and shortened average variable cost. Suppose these are the minimum points here. Now given this, we want to understand what is the short-run supply curve. Okay, so let's understand at different price will the actually supplier or the firm here will produce at a given price level. So think about this price, say it's P1. So any price below P1 will he choose to produce. So we know that if we choose to produce anywhere below P1, he is going to choose this price, but he will incur cost and he is not even able to recover his short-run average variable cost. So the idea here is that at least he should be able to cover the short-run average variable cost. That means he will never charge a price below P1. He will always charge a price above P1 so that at least minimum short-run average variable cost we can recover. If not, the fixed cost, the difference between short-run average cost and average variable cost is the average fixed cost. If not the average fixed cost, but at least on average we should be able to cover the variable cost here. So the difference here, average fixed cost, will get covered as we are moving up in terms of the prices, but this is still preferable by the suppliers. They will still choose to produce in this region. So the supply curve therefore moves above P1. So and it is the portion of the short-run marginal cost curve. So remember this thing, supply curve is a portion of the short-run marginal cost curve. So this portion above P1 becomes the short-run supply curve for a price taking firm. So remember this concept here, and it will be very much helpful. And this point at which he is actually breaking even in terms of what price he should choose. So definitely any price below P1 he is not going to choose. So this point is called as shutdown point, because below this he will actually shut down, and as long as his fixed cost is being recovered, he will choose to reduce. Alright, next I will move to short run supply curve with an example of Cobb-Douglas function. Now let's say short run cost function is given to us, and this is equal to Vk1 plus W cube whole power 1 by beta k power minus alpha by beta. Okay, this is my short run cost function which is given to us, and we want to check the optimum level of quantity, or what if we can actually compute the supply curve. We want to check, can we compute the supply curve in this particular case. Short run marginal cost is something that we can compute directly from this equation. And how do we do that? Derivation of short run with respect to the quantity. Compute it and we get this equation, 1 by W by beta times Q power 1 minus beta upon beta K1 power minus alpha by beta. Alright, now short run marginal cost is increasing in the quantity. So as Q is rising, definitely short run marginal cost, we understand this will also rise. And we understand that this is a supply curve. Short run marginal cost, it's a supply curve, and therefore I can put this value short run marginal cost to be equal to the price, because we just discussed previously at optimum marginal cost equals to the price for a competitive firm. And if we put this equal to price, what do we get? W by beta times Q power 1 minus beta upon beta K1 power minus alpha by beta. This is equals to price. Okay, from here I can compute the value of optimum quantity that I am producing. Okay, so next I will move on to discuss properties of profit function. Mainly there are 4 properties of profit function. First is called homogeneity. What is the meaning of homogeneity? So since profit is in terms of the prices that we choose, so we take the function or the property of the profit in terms of the prices. So we say that if price increase by x proportion, the profit also increase by the same x proportion. So this is one property of profit function, that says it is homogeneous in nature. Okay. Second property is that profit function is non-decreasing in the output price. Means if output price increase, profit is not going to fall. Price increase, so the profit also increase. Okay, this is one of the property of the profit function. Third is they are non-increasing in input prices. Input prices, say V and W that we take here, so non-increasing, meaning if the input price increases, then the profit will actually fall. So if input price is increase, the output price here profit will actually decline. What we talk is that profit function is convex in output prices, which means that suppose there are two prices P1 and P2 that I take, and I take profit corresponding to two different prices. So profit corresponding to P1 comma WV plus profit corresponding to P2 VW, average of it is greater than equal to the profit corresponding to average of the price V comma W. So this is the fourth important property of profit function. It means it's convex in the output price. So the average of the two profit itself is greater than the extreme value of it. Okay. Next concept is envelope result. Again an important result. So what exactly is envelope result? So we have profit as a function of price, right? So I just write profit as a function of P, V, W. And if we derivate the profit with respect to price, we get Q, because profit is equal to P times quantity revenue minus total cost. So I can write cost function as a function of quantity. So derivation of profit with respect to price, it becomes Q. So Q would be in terms of P, V and W, the same parameters here. So usually to optimize my profit and to get an optimum quantity and therefore the optimum condition, we derivate profit with respect to Q. Okay, but specifically for envelope result, we derivate profit with respect to the price here. Remember this thing, for optimization we don't derivate with respect to the price. However, for envelope result, if specifically asked, then we show the derivation of profit with respect to the price, and then we come to this output as an as a desired result here. And what this is one of the result of envelope result. Second result is that derivation of profit. So cost function, I can write cost function as WL plus RK. Alright, now if I derivate the cost W here, so I'm derivating profit with respect to W. What do I get? It's minus of L, which is function of all these parameters, so P, V and W. The third envelope result is that derivation of profit with respect to R here. This becomes minus K, which is again a function of P, V, W. So all these results are important. It's part of envelope result, so keep this in mind. Okay. Next I will just explain one of the examples related to it. So for a short run profit function, suppose we have, and in the profit function we have price into quantity minus the cost function. So cost we have VK plus WL, and the output we have is Cobb-Douglas function. Say it's K power alpha and L power beta. This is the output that's given to me, and if I just replace the value of output here, what do you get as the profit? It is price times K alpha L beta minus VK minus WL. This is my profit function. Now, given that K is constant, because we talk about the short run function, so K1 is given fixed to us. Now if we derivate the profit with respect to L, I get optimum L star, and this value will come out to be W upon beta P K1 just to denote its constant capital power alpha whole power 1 upon beta minus 1. Okay, this is the value of L star optimum, and I can just replace this value of L star in this function and rewrite the profit function. So this is something that I wanted to introduce, the short run profit function, to make you explain that if we have a capital which is constant to us, then we can find optimum L star, and corresponding to it we can find an optimum level of profit. Okay, now I'll just explain what is Hoteling's lemma. This is simply the derivation of profit with respect to the price, which is one of the result of envelope result. So Hoteling's lemma is, if I derivate profit and even if I have K1 which is a constant capital, derivate profit with respect to P, I get optimum Q, which is a function of PV W K1. So this is the Hoteling lemma, and if you remember Shepherd lemma in the cost function we discussed, it was derivation of cost function with respect to the input price. Here Hoteling lemma is derivation of profit with respect to the price here. Okay, so next I will discuss the profit maximizing and input demand. How profit maximization and input demand are related. Okay, writing the profit function as a function of K and L, I can write it like this: P times Q minus CQ as a function of quantity. Now this can be written like this: P times output as a function of K and L. I am writing it in terms of the input demand. So output can be written as a function of KL minus cost function. It's V K plus WL. Alright. Now next step would be I maximize profit with respect to K, and we get P times differentiation with respect to K, we get F dash K minus V equals to 0. Differentiation of profit with respect to labor, we get P times F dash L minus W equals to 0. So just solving these two conditions, what do we get? P equals to P by V equals to F dash K and P by W equals to F dash L. Okay, now taking P common, what do we get? F dash K V equals to W F dash L, and rearrange further, what do we get? This can be written as W by V equals to F dash L upon F dash K. This is simply the result that we had derived in the cost function as well, that this was the slope of iso cost line and this was the slope of isocon. So or I can say MRTS, right? Marginal rate of technical substitution. We talk about the second order condition. So in the second order condition, what must be the case? This was the first order condition that we had computed. So take the second order derivation of it, pi double dash, what do we get? P times F double dash K. So with respect to K, we are differentiating it. So we know that double differentiation, margin product of capital, if I differentiate further with respect to capital, is negative. So second order condition first is that this goes negative, pi double dash with respect to labor, this times F double dash L is also negative, and third condition is that pi KK times pi LL minus pi square KL must be positive. So these are the three conditions which must be satisfied for profit maximization with respect to input demand that we are talking about. First condition was the first order condition had given us the case that rate of substitution equals to this rate of the, or the I can say is the slope of isocost line, and second order condition gives me these three results. Next I will simply explain you the two input case, the output effect and the substitution effect. Just like in difference curve you have studied income effect, substitution effect, here also there can be a case of substitution and the output effect. So two input case first we'll talk about. So in this, if Suppose we have two inputs, labor here and capital here, and I have a given level of output Q1 being produced, and there is a given capital to output ratio corresponding to this point, another capital to output ratio corresponding to this point. So this is point A, this is point B. Now if the wage rate fall, if wage rate fall, that means the price of labor falls and labor become cheaper. If labor become cheaper, then my substitution will happen between capital and labor, and I'm going to substitute capital for labor. So I'm going to move from a point like A to B, so that I'm using more of labor compared to capital with a fall in the wage rate. Now with this, as wage rate fall, the price of labor falls, my consumption of the labor demand will actually rise. This is called as substitution effect. The movement from A to B is called as substitution. I'm simply substituting between the various factors here. Now in addition to it, because the wage has fallen, there is an output effect, because it's more cheaper for the firm to produce more output. Since wage has fallen, firm feels that he can produce more output with the same unit of capital and labor, or I can say that they're able to save their profit, and therefore there is an output effect which is involved, as a result of which the output itself moves from a level say Q1 to another level of Q2, because of which the another effect leads me to further increase the demand for labor and move from point B to point C. The ultimate effect due to a fall in the wage rate, as a result of which the price of labor is like cheaper and the labor demand rises. Ultimately we move from not just A to B but A to C. So this effect A to B is the substitution effect, and B to C is actually the output effect. So keep this in mind, what is the output effect here. Alright, now simply if I plot a graph corresponding to it in terms of the marginal cost, what we understand, if I plot here the price, and here I have output plotted here, and price is like this. Okay, marginal cost, we know it's a upward sloping curve. Suppose this was my marginal cost. Now the supply function, because output has expanded from Q0 to Q1, I know that the supply for the firm has increased. So if this was my shortened marginal cost function, now marginal cost increased to another level at which higher level of output is produced. Earlier Q0 was produced, now Q1 level of output is produced. So this is say MC1. So higher level of output correspond to higher shift away of the marginal cost toward the right. Okay, so just a quick summary of substitution and output effect. Substitution effect causes any given level of output level to be produced using more of that particular input for which the price has fallen, right? That's what we saw here. And a fall in cost causes more of the good to be sold, and therefore the output rises, additional output effect is created, and hence increases the demand for that input from B to C. So this completes the summary of substitution effect and the output effect. This is the breakup of the total effect of a change in input price over the demand and ultimately on the output. Alright? Yes. So this completes chapter on profit maximization. I hope you have understood all the concepts. If there is any confusion, then you can post your doubt on the comment box. Thank you all. If you like the video, please subscribe the channel and like it.